There is a particular kind of ending that confuses people more than anger, betrayal, or distance the moment when someone doesn't slowly drift away, but instead seems to wake up one day already gone. No fight, no dramatic goodbye, no clear trigger. Just a quiet emotional shift where a person who once felt deeply connected now feels inexplicably elsewhere. To those left behind, it feels sudden, even cruel. But psychologically, these endings are rarely sudden at all. They are the final moment of a process that has been unfolding internally for a long time. Have you ever looked back at a relationship, romantic, platonic, or even familial, and realized that you didn't leave because of one big reason, but because something inside you changed? Or have you been on the other side, watching someone outgrow the relationship while you were still standing exactly where you were? That uncomfortable question, how can two people share the same history but not the same future, sits at the heart of this phenomenon. From a psychological perspective, people who outgrow relationships suddenly are often experiencing what is known as internal differentiation. This happens when personal growth occurs faster internally than it does externally. The person begins to change their values, emotional needs, boundaries, or self-concept, but continues participating in the relationship out of habit, loyalty, or fear of disruption. Outwardly, everything appears stable. Inwardly, the person is quietly recalibrating who they are. By the time the disconnect becomes visible, the emotional decision has already been made. One group of people who experience this are those undergoing identity restructuring. According to developmental psychology, major life phases such as early adulthood, career transitions, or periods of healing often trigger a reassessment of identity. When someone begins to define themselves more clearly, relationships built around an older version of the self can start to feel restrictive rather than supportive. The person isn't rejecting the other, they're separating from who they used to be. To the outside world, the departure looks abrupt. To the person leaving, it feels overdue. Another psychological angle involves attachment dynamics. Individuals with avoidant or dismissive attachment styles often disconnect emotionally long before they leave physically. They process dissatisfaction privately, minimizing conflict and maintaining surface-level harmony while slowly withdrawing emotional investment. When they finally exit, it appears sudden, but the truth is that the emotional bond dissolved quietly over time. Their nervous system prefers clean exits over prolonged emotional exposure, which can make their departure feel cold or shocking to others. There is also a group driven by emotional saturation rather than detachment. These are people who give deeply, adapt constantly, and suppress their own needs to maintain connection. Over time, this leads to what psychologists call emotional depletion. When their internal resources are exhausted, the shift can feel instantaneous because there is no energy left to negotiate, explain, or repair. The outgrowing isn't a choice, it's a threshold. Once crossed, returning feels psychologically impossible. What unites all these people is not a lack of care, but a mismatch in timing. Growth is not synchronized. Two people can love each other and still evolve at different speeds. And when growth becomes asymmetrical, the relationship begins to strain under the weight of unmet needs, unspoken changes, and diverging identities. The person who outgrows the relationship often feels guilt for leaving. The person left behind often feels confusion for not seeing it coming. Both experiences are valid. The deeper truth is that relationships don't always end because something went wrong. Sometimes they end because something changed. Understanding this doesn't erase the pain, but it reframes it. It allows space for compassion both for the person who stayed longer than they should have and for the person who had to leave to remain honest with themselves. If you've ever outgrown a relationship suddenly, it doesn't mean you are emotionally careless. It may mean you listened to an internal shift that could no longer be ignored. And if you've ever been outgrown, it doesn't mean you were unworthy. It may simply mean you were standing still while someone else was becoming someone new. Growth doesn't ask permission, and it rarely arrives at convenient times. If this perspective resonated with you, consider staying connected to the channel as we continue exploring the quiet psychology behind human change.